With us is Marie Sanderson, President and Founding Partner GuidePost Strategies. Marie, good morning. How are you? It's good to have you.
Good morning, Paul. I'm well. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we got lots of things. You're a former policy director of the Republican Governors Association, also GOP strategist, and you've served as Mississippi elected official Thad Cochran, legislative assistant, served as Governor Barber's budget advisor and staff in his 2007 Tax Study Commission. So you have lots of experience in politics that you cannot replace. But why is it time now to reduce the income tax? And tell us a little bit from your point of view and from your organization's point of view why this is a good idea.
I'm getting involved because I think Mississippi is at a great time to do something bold. I believe in our leaders. I think we have bold leadership. They've been good budgeters. Our state revenue is high. We have the opportunity to do something now that a lot of Republicans and conservatives have not been able to do over the last decade. The fact is the world has changed. I'm a mom of 3 and a small business owner, and I can live anywhere. I choose to live in Mississippi. And a lot of Americans are like that. And reducing the income tax simply makes Mississippi more attractive. It gives people back their hard-earned money. And it allows them to invest in new businesses. And the reality is small business is the fabric of Mississippi. And now is the time for our leaders to do something bold.
Yeah.
And we believe they can. We believe they will.
When I had on Chairman Hob Bryan the other day, and I think he balked it on the air, maybe on the floor of the Senate, just doing the pshaw on the fact that they say that lowering the personal or ending the personal income tax is going to have people flock into the state of Mississippi. I don't think anybody said flock, number one, but if he thinks that that is not one of the formulas for success and just kind of ignores what's happening around us, I think he's being naive. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think it matters. Look, states are reducing their taxes. They're reforming their tax code. I'll let the pundits, the legislators decide what's better between the House and the Senate bill. I'm encouraged that their bill's moving. And I and the business leaders that signed a letter that went to them yesterday want them to keep this conversation going. The reality is people move with their feet, that we're seeing that more and more in the nation's economy. And I want my children to come back to Mississippi. And we have unprecedented times, need unprecedented solutions. And Mississippi's in a great place. Many states are doing this. And again, I want to commend our leaders over the last decade and the legislators who are there now. We are in a good budget situation where the time is now this year to do some bold reform.
I think the House and Senate certainly the House has done a lot of study on this one and have the numbers. And I think I've asked both from both sides, the leadership in the House and the Senate, with the money that we have, and it's not based on first-time monies from the governor or one-time money from the governor, from the federal government, why isn't this the right time? And everybody says, well, there might be storms ahead. Well, it looks like it might be some storms, but I'm hoping they have figured in those storms, and I've been told in the House they have with the necessary triggers. Now, the question is, you've had a chance to look at other states and understand this is one of the building blocks to why they are surpassing us, number one, in population increases. So what's your thoughts on that?
Look, I understand the importance of the rainy day fund. The fact is, when Governor Barber came into office, that was one of his key priorities. And a lot of the legislators who were still there were there at the same time. Our governor was treasurer, our speaker, our lieutenant governor understands the importance of this. So I trust them to work together to get a bill that's prudent and smart and bold. I think it can be done. It doesn't all have to be done in the first year. Many states phase this in. Iowa just signed a bill into law that phases in their tax cuts through 2026. So there are a number of ways, and perfect doesn't have to be the enemy of the good right now between the two bills, but negotiation and conversation must continue. Our neighbor, Louisiana, just reformed their income tax. So currently our neighbor and someone we compete with a lot next door is currently more competitive than we are. And we're going to continue to see states reduce their income taxes because they understand how important this is to job growth.
Marie, do you know, and I think I heard that Arkansas either has it in the session or it's one way or the other. They're starting also that process as far as Arkansas.
They are, and their income tax was higher than ours, and they have reduced their income tax over time, but they're continuing that walk. And, I believe they'll have a Republican governor next year, probably Republican Governor Sarah Sanders as governor. And I know she will look to do more of this. And so it's only going to get more competitive around in the Southeast in our region and across the country. And again, I believe in our leaders. I believe they're smart. I believe they're prudent. And I believe that now is the time for us to do this reform to the income tax.
I do want to ask you, have the other states used this to use stages? They haven't done it all at once, so using it to phase in is not anything unusual. But we have people in the House and Senate that said anywhere from 10 years to 20 years, regardless of what the economy happens to be. 20 years seems quite a long time to phase in something to have some immediate impact. 10 years seems reasonable, but what have they done in other states?
You typically see more of a 5-year window. I think 10 years is also entirely possible. And again, that's to account for changes in revenue, things that we can't account for. But again, having looked at the budget over the years and compared it to other states, Mississippi is in great shape. And that's because of the leadership that we have. And we are in a better posture than a number of other states who have already made these hard decisions and have found a way to give money back to the people. The fact is, people have worked hard, and we do have an opportunity to give that money back to the people, to invest in businesses and other things in the state that'll make it more attractive for me to be here and my children to come back.
I think I remember, and apparently you do too, when Governor Barbour took over from Ronnie Musgrove, I believe it was. The rainy day fund was at zilch, and we were about $720 or $730 million in debt. So it gives you an idea at the financial propriety of House, or rather Senate, or rather Republicans or Democrats. But that seems like seems like ages ago to even talk about that and where we were with a full kitty now as far as the rainy day fund is concerned. Now, what can going bold like this do as far as, let's say we took the House plan?
Well, the House plan is certainly bold, and it gives immediate assistance. And it is, I think, a great marker to have these conversations. I like the House plan a lot. I think the Senate plan is another approach. And again, I'm not going to pick between the two plans. I'm glad that both houses have put something forward that give us room to talk. But people watch this, businesses watch this, entrepreneurs watch this, investors with capital who want to start businesses. We've spent so much time in our state over the decade investing in workforce development. Governor Bryant was a great governor before Governor Reeves and made that his key issue. We've done all the things we need to do, and you have a great memory going back. It's right, it was 720 was the whole. And year after year, we continue to put money in the rainy day fund. And let me make this point. We're not choosing between education or people's health care right now. Our revenue is in such a spot that back in 2007, when Governor Barbour attempted to have this conversation, the state is in a better fiscal position. So we can have this conversation about the income tax right now and not choose between kids. This is not about defunding other important state priorities.
Well, and that's true, and that needs to be mentioned more than once. But when you talk to some people in education, it's like the whole education system is going to collapse if we dare do this, which is totally wrong. I've even had the Dr. Wright from the Superintendent of Education on many times, and one of the questions is, what are you going to do with all this money you've got? Because they got boo-koodles of money, and at the same time, I understand inflation, but at the same time, we have less and less students in our state in public schools. I want to ask you about this when we come back, because you can see this list, maybe not to see that list, there it goes, but you can see all the names of the businesses across the state that are part of this movement, and some well-known names on this one. And I want to ask you what their preference happens to be as far as the House or Senate plan, and how possibly we could come together on this one. Back with Marie Sanderson. She is president and founding partner of GuidePost Strategies. Back with her in just a moment. You've had a lot of business people across the state join in on this one, and I'm sure some prefer one to the other, but for the most part, do they believe it's this necessary? This is the time to do that. If we miss this opportunity, it's going to play out in some negative ways for the future. Why do you think, and just wondering, why do you think defeat of this bill is going to be more injurious to the Republican Party long time than any other regular bill that may fall by the wayside during a regular session?
Well, look, the politics is not what's important here, but good policy is good politics, right? And I think that the letter called for eliminating the income tax responsibly. And the letter didn't say right now, it didn't say you couldn't work together, it didn't say you couldn't phase it. But the letter, and you're right, it was a great group of business leaders. I was proud. I was asked to sign the letter. I'm a volunteer to this effort, and I was thrilled with the other co-signers. And we have been working with conservative elected officials for the last decade. And I think there's a lot of business leaders in the state, small business leaders who choose to be here. As I said at the beginning of our discussion, a lot of these people could be anywhere, who are ready to see these leaders who have been good budgeters, who have kept our fiscal house in order, go ahead and do bold leadership on tax reform now. And whether or not there are ramifications, I just think good policy is good politics, and these business leaders understand that this is good policy for our state.
Well, yeah, that said, but just passing a bill that is not a good bill is not a good idea. I mean, you could say, well, we'll do this and we'll start it 5 years from now. And in some cases in the House and Senate, they're far, far apart on this one. So I think the words that you put in here, a responsible bill, but a bill that really does have some meat to it, that does something, that accomplishes the objective of getting us out of personal income tax in the state of Mississippi, so it gives the people back more money, and it also makes us more competitive. Would you agree on that?
I absolutely agree. And again, we call for the elimination of the income tax, but what we want to see are our leaders discussing and moving forward with, you're right, a good bill. And we believe the environment is right. We believe that the state is on good footing. Like we said earlier, we do not have to eliminate roads or education funding to do this. And this is a situation that we have not enjoyed in the state of Mississippi. And now we can plan for that. And again, I think the world is changing. We have to keep up in Mississippi to make sure that we're a place where people want to invest and live. And eliminating and reforming the income tax is a very important way to do that. We cannot be last when it comes to the way we restructure how we tax people who live here.
I agree with you. And one of the other things, too, if you start looking at this and you dig into it, is with our really number one in the nation with the lowest cost of living, is a tremendous, tremendous combination of those two things when you start looking at businesses moving into Mississippi. And the other thing, too, is every businessman and woman on that list and across the state understand they need that injection of money. They need that where you're getting that back, not paying it to the government, because the government has told us we are better off now than we've ever been. It's almost like a couple getting some windfall of money and putting it in savings, but then they're working paycheck to paycheck. Use some of it to buy food and pay off bills. The savings account is great, but at this particular time, there are better ways to use that. I was just looking at this and got a breaking news here that the inflation rate has just been. The inflation rate hit a fresh 40-year high. It did the last time in February. Went up almost another 8%, went up 7.9%, driven largely by higher gas prices. And that is right now killing the household budget across the state. They could use that money back. Well, give me a final thoughts on this one to wrap it up. And what else are you guys going to do? Or are you coming to Jackson? Are you going to be influencing some of the House and Senate members or twisting some arms? Or what are you going to do?
Well, I think that the business leaders who are on the letter just want to offer their services, their encouragement to keep this train going down the track. We need to continue to have this conversation. You see businesses were represented. You had a yard and garden center, a gym owner, bankers, developers, all sorts of people who use their profits and their money to reinvest into their communities. And I think we're going to continue to push for this. We think the time is now. Again, we have very capable leaders who we think can do and will do a very smart thing for our state. What that final bill looks like, I'm unsure, but I do think it can be done in a responsible manner. And we're at an opportunity in our state that we have not had or enjoyed the ability to do something that's bold until now.
Well, the other thing on this is we have a lot of politicians over the years, and I think some in both parties have misread the voters, and this might be one of those ways, but I love it when they talk about, I feel your pain, I'm there with you, and they use the worn-out phrase, I'm there with you at the kitchen table. Kitchen table. And I think about this when I hear them talking about the kitchen table, and I say, you're not really speaking to the new generation out there, because it's very seldom they can relate to having dinner with the family at the kitchen table. Not in today's digital world. It's a whole new place to be. But so, do you get the feeling? Final question here, Marie. Do you get and Marie Sanderson is our guest, president, founding partner of GuidePost Strategies. Marie, do you get the feeling that this is kind of a political showdown, and they feel like their ace in the hole is the governor calling the special session?
I'm not going to comment on process, but I will say, I think if they start explaining this to Mississippians, the politics are in favor of a reduction, giving money back to the people. The fact is, we've talked about seniors, we've talked about others, and, and on another day and on another show, we can talk about how this bill is also good for seniors and low-income Mississippians are not going to be unnecessarily penalized by this. And I think what's most important for the state is to make ourselves more competitive. And again, the way to do that is to reduce the income tax.
Marie, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it very, very much.